top stories. The government decides to recommence schools under 4 stages. The President instructs authorities to find quick solutions to fertilizer-related issues. Former MP Mangala Samaravira steps down from the upcoming general election. New Zealand and Tanzania declared as coronavirus-free countries. And on your top local story this evening, Ministry of Education decides to initiate the process to recommence all schools temporarily closed down due to the coronavirus pandemic situation from the 29th of June. Meanwhile, a decision was reached to conduct the GCE Advanced Level Examination on the 7th of September and the Grade 5 Scholarship Examination on the 13th of September. All public and private schools across the country were closed down on the 12th of March due to the coronavirus pandemic. 100 days have passed since schools were closed down. Special decisions were made at the meeting held yesterday between the President, health and educational authorities over the recommencement of schools. Accordingly, all schools will be recommenced from the 29th of June under 4 stages. Under the first stage, only the school principals, academic and non-academic staff should report to work on the 29th of June. Within this period, the schools should be disinfected, cleaned and prepared according to guidelines and mechanisms issued by health authorities. This period will be conducted and concluded on the 3rd of July, and the schools will be reopened for students only on the 6th of July. This stage will be enforced until the 17th of July, and during this period, students in grades 5, 11 and 13 will be allowed to attend schools. The third stage will be recommenced from the 20th of July and will be in effect until the 24th of July. Minister Dalla Salaha Peruma said that a decision for the students in grades 1 and 2 to attend schools is yet to be reached. The Ministry of Health will provide necessary instructions to relevant authorities pertaining to the functions of preschools and daycare centers. He added that health authorities are expected to provide necessary instructions on the functions and conduct of tuition classes in the near future. He said that a large amount of financial provisions will have to be allocated for the hygienic procedures in schools. So far, 289 million rupees have been allocated to equip schools with hand washing basins, and another 116 million rupees have been allocated to provide temperature measuring devices for schools. The minister said that the President and the Prime Minister have extended the necessary funds to purchase the necessary equipment in this regard. Meanwhile, the GCE Advanced Level Examination scheduled to be held on the 5th of August, yet postponed due to COVID-19, has been rescheduled to be conducted on the 7th of September till the 2nd of October. The Ministry of Education has also decided to hold the Grade 5 Scholarship Examination on the 13th of September. The Commissioner General of Examinations, Sanat B. Pujitha, said that the examinations will be held under health regulations. He further said that during the GC Advanced Level Examination, an additional reading time of 10 minutes will be provided. The Ministry has also decided to amend the opening hours of schools with recommencement of schools. Accordingly, the classes for Grade 3 and 4 are set to commence at 7:30 a.m. and conclude by 11:30 a.m. The classes for Grades 5 will commence at 7:30 a.m. and conclude at 12 noon. The classes for Grades 6, 7, 8 and 9 are set to commence at 7:30 a.m. and conclude at 1:30 p.m. while the classes for grades 10, 11, 12 and 13 will commence at 7:30 a.m. and will be concluded at 3:30 p.m.
Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa instructed officials to find immediate solutions to issues faced by farmers relating to the supply, distribution and use of fertilizer. The issue of fertilizer is a common occurrence in many districts when cultivation starts. President said that short, medium and long-term solutions should be found to address the issue. The natural composition of the soil has been drastically changed due to the excessive use of chemical fertilizer. Farmers tend to use fertilizer in big quantities with the expectation of high yield. The President highlighted the importance of shifting towards organic fertilizer by gradually decreasing the usage of chemical fertilizer. President made these comments during a discussion held at the Presidential Secretariat today to review the current status of the fertilizer supply and distribution. With the commencement of Yala season, the issue of fertilizer has cropped again. Also, farmers resort to increase the paddy cultivations with the high price rates on the crop. The officials and the governors pointed out that the restrictions on agri-imports, increase in the usage of lands for vegetable, fruits and grain cultivation are some of the contributory factors for the high demand of fertilizer. The farmers should be apprised on how to use fertilizer effectively through agricultural officers and mass media, President said. The farmers in the north prefer to use more and more organic fertilizer. The governor of the northern province, PSM Charles, said the harvest in higher both in quality and quantity. If the farmers in other areas too use organic fertilizer like in the past, it will help solving many health hazards, the president added. President Rajapaksa instructed the officials to pay special attention to the production of organic fertilizer according to relevant standards and to find out the varieties of crops that will grow fast using organic fertilizer. President also pointed out the necessity of evaluating progress achieved by using organic fertilizer. Attention has been paid to encourage use of organic fertilizer by offering a higher price when purchasing the harvest and provide concessions. The president said that the demand for chemical fertilizers can be brought down by developing organic fertilizer production as a large-scale industry. The requirement of studying the distribution of organic fertilizer in the world market was also discussed. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa, provincial governors, Secretary to the President P.B. Jayasundara, Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, retired Major General Sumedha Pereira and several other officials were present during the meeting.
The Gazette notification containing the preferential numbers of the candidates contesting for the 2020 general election was issued today. The Gazette notification also contains the information on polling centres. The Election Commission took steps to issue lists containing the preference numbers to the returning officers of each district. Speaking at a media briefing held today, Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya said that the date to hold the general election will be announced in the next couple of days. Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya said that the first stage in holding the general election has been conducted. The Commission only has to replace the scheduled date to hold the election, that is the 20th of June, with a new date which will be completed within this week itself. He requested all media institutions to refrain from making assumptions over the date to hold the election. He said that the Commission declared that the election will be conducted within 60 to 70 days, which has been utilized to presume the date to hold the elections between the 4th of August to the 19th by these institutions, while some have assumed that the elections will be held on either the 8th or 15th of August, citing that those days are Saturdays. However, he said that if the Commission decides to hold the election on the assumed dates, then these organizations will declare that they are the first to announce the dates, claiming that the dates were fixed due to various influences of certain political parties. Therefore, he requested for more time for the Commission to reach the decision on the date to hold the election following the meeting set to take place tomorrow. Until then, he requested not to make any assumptions whatsoever over the election date, so that the election has to be conducted within the said time period as informed to the Supreme Court. Now, in the meantime, Minister Dallas Alahaperuma has made remarks over the date to hold the general election at the media briefing held at the Ministry of Education premises today. Minister Dallas Alahaperuma said that if the date to hold the general election has not been fixed before 12 midnight on the 20th of July, according to the opinions of the senior councils, they believe that the President will be empowered with a constitutional power to issue an announcement on the dates to hold the election and to convene the Parliament. Also, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa met with artists in the country today, and at the special meeting, special attention in fact was paid on the difficulties faced by local artists during the COVID-19 pandemic period. The meeting between the Prime Minister and representatives of several artists' associations was held at the Prime Minister's official residence in Vijayarama. At the meeting, the artists discussed on problematic situations erupted in the fields of cinematography, film, music, teledrama, stage drama and other artistic fields during the COVID-19 period. Attention of the Prime Minister was directed on the economic inconveniences faced by artists, with all artistic activities including musical concerts, teledrama and stage drama productions which have come to a halt under the prevailing situation in the country due to COVID-19. The Prime Minister, citing that no entity has the ability to win their rights by fighting solely, emphasized that the ability in winning the rights through collective effort by the people represented in each sector as trade union movements. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardana's secretaries of several ministries, chairman of the Film Corporation and Tower Hall Foundation and representatives of various artistic fields were in attendance. When he was Minister of Labour, he had requested various entities to approach the government through union actions or by forming unions and not as individual entities. He suggested the people involved in stage drama field to form an association to come forward with their grievances. When approaching individually to resolve their concerns or to fulfill their needs, such as acquiring bank loans, it would be a hassle for the government and governing agents. Therefore, it is convenient to form an association and reach out for solutions for the concerns and issues faced by them.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna alleges that certain members in the Election Commission are attempting to postpone the general election. Members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna have pointed out that the behavior of one of the commission members has proven this allegation. Former MP Kanaka Herat said that they are under impression that the members of the Election Commission are taking efforts to postpone the election instead of conducting the election. He alleged that the Commission will come up with various excuses in the future with the aim to postpone the election deliberately.
Various opinions and statements have been made between the United National Party and Samagi Jana Balavegaya over the decisions pertaining to the leadership and working committee. Former MP P. Harrison said that former parliamentarian Ranil Wickremesinghe is their leader. He said that former Premier has led the party for 25 years, yet he was unable to become the president or state leader of the country during this period. Former parliamentarian Sujiva Senasinghe said that the United National Party's secretary has claimed that the working committee consists of 59 members. He added that 37 of the members are with them. Therefore, the working committee should convene along with them. They are still working committee members and they have not been ousted from the committee as well.
Former parliamentarian Mangala Samaravira has decided to refrain from contesting in the upcoming parliamentary election. Accordingly, he has requested the Mathura district people to refrain from casting their preferential votes for him at the election. With the decision of the former MP Mangala Samaravira, Samagi Jana Balavegaya has decided to appoint former MP Buddhika Patirana for the leadership of the Mathura district group. Former MP Mangala Samaravira has pointed out that the opposition has not seemed to have a clear understanding over its role and duty. This was cited in a statement issued by the former parliamentarian. Also, the former parliamentarian held a meeting last evening at his residence with active party members of the Mathura district and had briefed the participants regarding his decision. Former MP said that he has informed his decision to the leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, and the leader of the Samagi Jana Balavegaya, Sajid Premadasa. He expressed his deep regret at the division that has occurred in the United National Party. In his statement, the former parliamentarian has informed that he has not decided to retire or bid farewell to politics, though he has decided to step down from the politics of being a member of parliament.
Well, many banned equipment and devices, including mobile phones, were discovered during a raid at the Negombo prison today. Commissioner General of Prisons, Tushara Upuldenia, said that the raid was carried out last night. 71 batteries, 30 chargers and 16 grams of heroin were also discovered along with the mobile phones during this raid. The new Commissioner General said that similar raids will in fact be carried out with the aim to eradicate corrupt activities and illegal trafficking that occur inside prisons. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa emphasized on the need to curb drug trafficking and organized crime operated inside prisons last week. He also directed necessary instructions to the relevant authorities. Accordingly, with this initiative, most senior of the Prisons Department, Tushar Upuldenia, was appointed as the new Commissioner General of Prisons.
The Sri Lanka police was able to nab a doctor who robbed an amount of more than 7.9 million rupees delivered to make the overtime payments at the Colombo National Hospital within several minutes this evening. The robbery took place around 1:30 p.m. today. These funds were brought to the relevant division of the National Hospital in order to make overtime and other incentive payments for the hospital staff. The suspect had robbed the bags consist of the money at gunpoint and fled the scene. However, 2 newly recruited constables attached to the Police Intelligence Division stationed at the hospital had chased down the suspect and took him into custody. Officer in charge of the Mathura Divisional Child and Women's Affairs Bureau, IP Varuni Bogavatta, who was at the hospital at the occasion, had joined the mission to arrest the suspect. On to Corona news now. Overseas, New Zealanders hugged and kissed, shopped and planned parties together as the country took off all coronavirus restrictions for the first time for more than 3 months.
It's a scene many around the world haven't had for months. Cafes full with customers and no plastic dividers. Drinks with mates after work and Pilates classes in full swing. Life returned to normal for New Zealanders on Tuesday after it became one of the first countries in the world to lift social distancing limits. In a cafe in Wellington, cafe-goers welcomed the news.
Feeling just quite relaxed, and everyone else feeling relaxed around you. You're not trying to avoid people, and you can talk to people without feeling like you need to stand back.
Yesterday, leader Jacinda Ardern announced the nation would lift all restrictions except for border controls. When she was asked how she celebrated, she answered,
"I did a little dance."
Ardern encouraged fellow Kiwis to unite and support local businesses to get the country's economy ticking back to life. For cafe manager Kate Ellis, she was overjoyed to see customers lining up.
Seats are all back in, so we've removed all the social distancing, and that's what allows us to have a lot more people in the cafe and to really generate that absolute buzz and that real feeling of more normality, really.
New Zealand will also be one of the first countries to allow people to watch professional sports at stadiums, with no limits on crowd numbers. Thousands are expected to pack into stadiums for the opening weekend of the domestic rugby union competition.
Well, while we do see a sense of normalcy in New Zealand, yesterday the World Health Organization warned that the coronavirus pandemic is still worsening globally, with more than 136,000 cases reported worldwide on Sunday.
Globally, it's worsening.
On Monday, the World Health Organization warned that the coronavirus pandemic is still worsening globally. More than 136,000 cases were reported worldwide on Sunday, the most in a single day so far. That announcement comes just as countries like New Zealand, which no longer has any active coronavirus cases, further relax their stay-at-home restrictions. Technical lead Maria Van Kerkhove urged countries not to let their guard down too quickly.
So let's celebrate the successes that we do have, but let's remain focused on the remaining work that needs to be done, because unfortunately this is far from over.
The WHO noted that the pandemic has not yet hit its peak in places like Central America, where infections are still on the rise. Brazil is now one of the hot spots of the pandemic, with the second highest number of infections, only behind the United States. More than 7 million people have now been infected globally, and over 400,000 have died.
Google is adding features on its Maps services to alert users about COVID-19 related travel restrictions to help them plan their trips better, the Alphabet Incorporation unit said yesterday.
As big cities around the United States like New York reopen, more people are heading back to work and getting back on public transport. But who wants to step on a packed train in a time of social distancing? To that end, Google on Monday introduced new features in Google Maps that will allow users to check crowd sizes at train stations before heading out. An update to Google Maps will also allow transit riders to check if buses are running on full or limited schedules. The transit alerts will be rolled out in the U.S., United Kingdom, Argentina, France, India, and several other countries, according to a company blog post. And the new features won't be limited to public transport. Google Maps will also provide details on highway bottlenecks and travel restrictions due to health checks at national border crossings between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Well, coming back to Sri Lanka, with corporate and individual donations and direct deposits, the Itukama COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund balance has now surpassed 1,374 million rupees. The Department of Education Central Province has donated 14,133,164 rupees to the fund, while the Central Provincial Education Service Thrift and Credit Cooperative Society Limited has donated 200,000 rupees to the fund, and the chairman of the Norwood Pradeshya Sabha K.K. Ravi has donated 50,000 rupees to the fund. The checks for these sums were handed over to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa by the Governor of the Central Province, Lalit U. Gamage, at the Presidential Secretariat today. Governor of the Uva Province and provincial public officers have donated 11,612,217 rupees to the fund, and the cheque for this sum was handed over to the President by Governor Raja Kollure, and Southern provincial public officers have donated 20,273,541 rupees to the fund, and the cheque with this sum was handed over to the President by Governor Willie Gamage, while the cheque for the 3 million rupees donated by Northern provincial public officers was handed over to the President by Governor of the Northern Province, P.S.M. Charles. Eastern provincial public officers and NGOs have donated 40 million rupees to the fund, and the cheque for this sum was handed over to the President by Governor Anuradha Yahampath and Chief Secretary of the Eastern Provincial Council, P. Vanigasinghe. Governor Marshal of the Air Force WDMJ Roshan Gunatilaka handed over the cheque for 20 million rupees donated by the Western Provincial Public Officers to President Rajapaksa. The other donations made to the fund included 3 million rupees by Dial Textile Industries Private Limited, 1 million rupees by Neil Umagilia, and 10 million rupees by the Lion Vision Foresight Hospital Trust. The relevant cheques for these sums were handed over to the President. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka, Australia and New Zealand Business Council has donated 500,000 rupees to the fund, while Mr. Laksiri Mendis AL has donated 500,000 rupees to the fund as well. The fund's balance as of now has now reached 1,374,575,492 rupees and 89 cents. Local as well as foreign donors have made their contributions to the fund. Deposits can be made through cheques, telegraphic transfers, visiting www.itukama.lk or by dialing #207#.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa emphasizes the significance of the new policy, which should be acceptable to everyone and appropriate for future generations. National education system is being restructured according to the theme of equal learning opportunity for every child envisaged in the National Policy Framework Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor. The President made these remarks at a meeting held to review the President's status of the national education policy, which is being formulated at present. The meeting to review the current status of the formulation of the national education policy was held at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. Ministers Bandula Gunawardena, Dalasala Peruma, secretaries to the Ministries of Education and Higher Education principals, vice principals and experts in the education sector were present at the meeting. Members of the Presidential Task Force on the Sri Lanka Education updated the President on the current status of the formulation of the national education policy. Recommendations covering from nursery, primary, secondary to higher and vocational education have been presented. The President informed the officials to place the recommendations for a public debate at least 2 months prior to the finalization of the report. President Rajapaksa further added that the recommendations should be disseminated to the public both via print media and electronic media to consult their opinions and include them in the final report. Presidential Task Force noted that against all odds in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, online education method has achieved much progress. Despite numerous difficulties at the inception, online system was able to overcome technical issues and succeeded. With the growing number of students from both universities and schools, the online education displays the potential for further improvement in the future. The President stressed the need of promoting online education for higher education based on these data. The President also instructed to make online arrangements to fill the existing teacher vacancies in English, mathematics and science. All the universities in the country have progressed through online activities. Professor Sampath Amaratunga, chairman of the University Grants Commission, said that Sri Lanka is ahead of India, Indonesia and Malaysia in online education. The chairman further stated that the online education system has received an enthusiastic participation from the students at faculties of arts beyond earlier expectations. The vice-chancellors of the universities pointed out that this has helped in achieving the president's objective of imparting knowledge in information technology to students studying in art stream. The students have to wait for nearly 2 years after advanced level examination before they enroll into universities. In this context, the president has instructed the officials to utilize this duration to teach English language and to develop knowledge of computer technology to all students in the country. The President Rajapaksa also asked for the opinion of the task force regarding the possibility of placing the general education, higher education and vocational training ministries under one ministry. Some experts were of the view that it was an appropriate suggestion.
Well, taking a look at the overall situation of coronavirus in the country, the number of recoveries from COVID-19 infections in the country passed 1,000 today. Accordingly, a total of 1,057 COVID-19 patients have fully recovered and have been discharged from hospitals thus far. Another 790 coronavirus patients are currently receiving treatment in hospitals at the moment. Meanwhile, only one patient with COVID-19 was detected in the country today. According to the report issued by the epidemiology unit as at 10 a.m. today, within the 24 hours that passed, 69 COVID-19 patients were discharged upon recovering fully. A total of 19 confirmed cases were reported in the country yesterday. Among the confirmed cases reported yesterday, 10 persons were Navy personnel, while 8 were returnees from Kuwait. Another 4 were identified as returnees from Chennai. Necessary biosamples were obtained from 57 persons who were directed for quarantine in luxury hotels in Kalutara for PCR tests today. Meanwhile, a special discussion was held today with the directors of the hospitals currently engaged in treating patients with COVID-19. The discussion was held under the patronage of Minister Pavitra Vanniyarachi. The minister was briefed on the issues pertaining to the hospital staff and patients during the treatment process of the COVID-19 patients. She instructed the secretary to the Ministry of Health on the measures to be taken regarding these issues.
Meanwhile, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena extends gratitude to the Middle Eastern countries for the support and solidarity given to Sri Lanka during this unprecedented international situation of the spread of the COVID-19. The minister made these remarks when he met with the ambassadors of the Middle Eastern countries based in Colombo at the Ministry of Foreign Relations today. Ambassadors, heads and ministers of missions of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Egypt, the State of Palestine, UAE, Qatar, Iraq and Libya were present at the meeting. As the largest expatriate community that lives and works in the Middle East, Minister Gunawardena took the opportunity to extend appreciation for the steps taken to look after the health and safety of Sri Lankan expats. He said that the government has initiated plans to bring the returnees from the region in a systematic manner. Minister Gunawardena further expressed Sri Lanka's keen interest in enhancing and strengthening economic and trade ties with the region, especially through a government-to-government mechanism. The minister was optimistic that the socio-economic and political relations will be further strengthened by the government of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Minister Gunawardena emphasized that the government of Sri Lanka will continue to follow a non-aligned friendly foreign policy. He recalled that Sri Lanka has consistently supported the rights of the Palestinian people and in the right to an independent sovereign state based on the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. He added that Sri Lanka's commitment towards the Palestinian people, their safety and well-being remains undiminished. While thanking for the development assistance granted by the Middle East region, such as Saudi Fund for the Development, Kuwait Fund and other funding agencies, Minister Gunawardena welcomed such development assistance in the future. Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Relations, Ravinath Aryasinghe, also elaborated the actions taken by the government on the smooth return of Sri Lankans. Ambassador of the State of Palestine thanked the Sri Lankan government for its continuous support for the rights of the Palestinian people, and he also recalled Sri Lanka's excellent relations with the Middle East during the meeting. Meanwhile, 42 persons, including leader of the Frontline Socialist Party, Kumara Gunaratne, were arrested from conducting a protest while ignoring court orders and quarantine laws. Colombo Fort Magistrate Ranga Dissanayake issued a court order yesterday preventing to conduct protests in the vicinity of in front of the US Embassy in Colombo by considering a complaint made by the Kollupitia police. But disregarding the court order and quarantine rules, the Frontline Socialist Party Duminda Nagamua, the police had said that they will be produced before the courts after recording statements from them. Meanwhile, another 19 persons were taken into custody by the police while attempting to conduct a demonstration at the Lipton roundabout. In this incident, the police arrested several people, including the leader of the Frontline Socialist Party, Kumara Gunaratnam.
Well, in more local news, a special meeting was held yesterday at the Temple Trees to inquire into the progress of the national and community water development projects. The meeting was held under the patronage of the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival and Poverty Eradication, Basil Rajapaksa. Many projects have been initiated under the National Water Supply and Drainage Board. The progress and issues pertaining to these projects were discussed at the meeting. The progress and issues pertaining to 122 projects initiated by the National Community Water Supply Department were discussed at the meeting. Also, further discussions were also held over the new projects expected to be initiated under the department at the meeting. Head of the Presidential Task Force, Basil Rajapaksa, directed instructions to authorities to resolve issues pertaining to the projects accordingly. Well, that's it on local news. We'll be back with news overseas. Now in news overseas, the bail for Derek Chauvin, the police officer accused of murdering George Floyd, had his bail raised to $1.25 million yesterday.
A memorial service was held in Los Angeles on Monday to remember victims of police killings.
Not only did they shoot my baby 7 times, they ran him over.
There were 4 empty coffins to represent recent high-profile cases of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery and Ryan Charles Twyman. The sister of another victim, Botham Jean, killed in 2018, attended a memorial in Texas. Elisa Finley said the momentum in protest this time is different, but the trauma she feels is the same.
Every time another event, another killing happens, it's trauma. It brings me back to receiving that call from the hospital, let me know that Botham has passed.
Henry Kiki Watson was part of the LA4 who served time for badly beating white truck driver Reginald Denny. That was during the LA riots in 1992, after 4 cops were acquitted of beating black motorist Rodney King.
People, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Watson says he is still angry and doesn't think anything has fundamentally changed.
Okay, first of all, you see the makeup of the protesters out there, right? There's a bunch of white kids, right? So that's why they haven't just released the dogs and start shooting and you know, just killing people, because there's a bunch of, you know, white kids out there. Now, if it was a bunch of black kids out there, they would have been start shooting and killing and everything.
People have been protesting the recent police killings nationwide for 14 days.
I feel safer as of right now, but I don't know how long this will last.
They continue to call for justice for those killed and zero tolerance when excessive force is used by police.
Meanwhile, North Korea said today it will sever hotlines with South Korea as the first step towards shutting down all contact with Seoul, state news agency reported.
North Korea said on Tuesday it will sever hotlines with South Korea as the first step towards shutting down all contact with Seoul. That's according to state news agency KCNA. For several days, North Korea has lashed out at South Korea, threatening to close a liaison office and other projects if the South does not stop defectors from sending leaflets and other material into the North. And the abrupt move will come as soon as noon on Tuesday, when the North will close lines of communication at both an inter-Korean liaison office and hotlines between the two militaries and presidential offices. On Tuesday morning, North Korean officials did not answer a routine daily call to the liaison office nor calls on military hotlines, Yonhap news agency reported. The decision to cut communications marks a setback in efforts to try and persuade North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons program in exchange for relief on tough international sanctions. The two Koreas remain technically at war because the 1950 to 1953 Korean War ended with an armistice rather than a peace treaty.
And in sports news for tonight, Argentine athlete Sebastian Rossi is training for the 2021 Olympics with an innovative home setup inside his girlfriend's swimming pool.
No gym is no problem for Olympic hopeful Sebastian Rossi. The Argentine athlete is paddling furiously with his canoe strapped to a pair of palm trees inside his girlfriend's swimming pool. Rossi is a wild water slalom racer, but social distancing is keeping him away from whitewater rapids. Pool training presents an entirely different kind of challenge.
It's a bit tedious to be in the pool day after day compared to proper training in nature with fast water, doing what I like. This sport helps you relate to water with rivers, so to be trapped at home in the pool, it's difficult. But I do it because it's necessary.
Rossi says his innovative home setup was inspired by his father, who first gave him basic kayaking lessons at a municipal pool in Buenos Aires. He's loved the sport ever since, and fresh off his silver medal at the Pan American Games in 2019, Rossi now hopes to qualify for the Olympics.
We adapted some bicycle straps we had, and that simulates paddling when we row upstream. We more or less managed to improvise in order to train. Although it's not optimal, it's better than nothing.
Despite the Summer Olympics being postponed until next year, Rossi says he remains optimistic about his chances to paddle on the world stage.